I have my Brooke concert shirt. Which is appropriate because there is a party in this, and I'm sure Brooke is singing at the party. So, time for chapter 1126. But first, there were two things I wanted to point out. A, yes, I'm aware of the fact that James Earl Jones passed away, which made me very sad. Mufasa, Darth Vader, so many other amazing roles. Field of Dreams, take your pick. Has been in so many amazing movies, played so many amazing characters, some of which, terrified us as kids. Others were just this amazing father figure. That can be determined on what you consider an amazing father figure between Mufasa and Darth Vader, but you get the idea. And yes, we lost him this past week, unfortunately, for, both an amazing voice actor and an amazing on-screen actor. And he will be missed greatly. Go tell Carrie Fisher that we miss her, and everybody else from Star Wars that we've lost. Go tell them we miss them. Have fun raising hell up in heaven. And then the other thing that we got this past week was we finally got Emu's voice. Although admittedly, we don't know who is voicing Emu yet, because we just got question mark for the name. So, plus they only said one word. So, I don't know. I'm not going with any theory yet in regards to male, female, adult, child, race, whatever. We're not sure yet. I kind of like the idea of Eam being a woman, but that's not going to get revealed in this case, and they'll probably just use the reverb for the next episode or two while Eam is speaking, and then we'll have to still wait another amount of time before they reveal who the voice actor is, because that's going to be big. Although, to be fair, they do have women voice men and men voice women in One Piece at various points in time, because, Luffy's voice actor, Mayumi Tanaka, and Colleen Clinkenbeard in the Japanese and the English are both women voicing Luffy, so that doesn't necessarily qualify one way or the other for the answer to this. And there's been other actors who have voiced multiple characters throughout One Piece. In that regard, and that, within the same time frame of One Piece. So, we'll see how that goes. For, who's voicing Eam. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But for this chapter, for chapter 1126, called Taking Responsibility, there are several points in this chapter, obviously, where there are characters who have to take responsibility for their actions, for their bad choices, or for their failings. We'll get that with Bartolomeo, Avalo Pizarro, see how those go. So we start off with the Yamato cover story, and Yamato is currently still in Curry. And he has, he's found out about that Minatomo's missing from the construction site. So they're So Yamato's gone, and he's stopped off at what I think is just supposed to be Otsuru's cafe, tea house type thing that she had, that we, that's where we met her, or where we met Kiku. And we're they got medicine for Tama and everything for the poison. And Yamato has stopped there to have some soba, and he's talking to the soba girl that's, in charge of the shop right now. And we still see the Kozuki crest on proud display in the background, which is great. And, we see Yamato's... I like that we see Yamato's backpack, and we see the sword that he has been asked to deliver to the Enma Shrine, so there's that. Asked by Kanamon deliver. And the shop girl is yeah, a bunch of my coworkers were, the other shop girls, the other soba shop girls were, reported missing. So she's worried about her friends. So Yamato's probably I'm going to need to look into this. So, missing persons mystery for Yamato there. And then into the actual chapter. So now we're going to get a little bit of okay, why Dory and Bragi are here and why they're still not on Little Garden fighting each other, because as was pointed out when Dory and Bragi first showed back up in the story, several chapters ago when they were introduced, with being with Shanks on Elbath, the last we'd known of them was that they were still on Little Garden, fighting it out, with punches instead of their weapons, and that gets addressed here. So we have Oimo and Kashi, and they're like, yeah, it was a while after we left you guys at Water 7. We couldn't wait to see the captains again, so we went to Little Garden ourselves. So, again, we don't know exactly, like, the route that they would have had to take to get to Little Garden. Technically, I guess, from Water 7, they could have just, like, backtracked and tried to get to Water 7, since it's on the same half of the Grand Line, since they're both in the Paradise side, but we're not sure. So they're like that. And this is referencing in the cover story that was leading into the CP9 independent report that we see Oimo and Kashi heading off to... Well, we were sure they were going to go try to find Dory and Bragi, and now we know that that was where they went, but they may have had to go home first, because, like, the ship they had was not big enough to go pick up Dory and Bragi, so they may have had to sail to Elbath, and then from Elbath, sail to Little Garden to get Dory and Bragi, which is still a very long way to sail, no matter which way you have to look at it, because, you know... Technically, Elbath would be closer to Little Garden than Water 7 would be to Elbath. So, I don't know what to say about that. But they have that, and we see that all the Straw Hats and the Giants are all just partying while this is going on. And Luffy's like, so that's what happened. Anyone would be curious after 100 years. And Luffy's in heaven right now. He is just chowing down on so many giant pieces of meat and mutton and everything like that. And just having fun. And they're like, yeah, so they're still talking. So it's like, yeah, when we got there, these two were still going at it barehanded. And they're, you know, and we hear Dory and Bragi laughing in the background. You know, it's like, wait, why were, you know, it's like, how come? And then it's like, sometimes weapons just break, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, they're just like laughing about that. And this is referencing to when Dory and Bragi helped the Straw Hats escape Little Garden and get away from the giant goldfish. They used the Hoken move, where they, you know, destroyed the goldfish, but that also destroyed their weapons as well. And that's why they had to resort to fighting bare-fisted instead. So that's, you know, explaining that. And so it's just like, and they're just like still explaining, it's just like, you think a punch is enough to take down these stubborn oafs? And they're just still laughing and having fun. And we see, like, a bunch of the rest of the giants are, like, all having fun around them. And, like, there's, like, this giant plate full of meat. And, okay, so we see on the meat, which is just funny, we see Luffy, Jinbei is sitting there. There's another one of the Straw Hats, but I can't tell who it is. But, like, we know that all of them are here being part of the celebration right now. Since they know that they didn't actually fail and that Vegapunk is still semi-okay because of Lilith. Whether or not she told them that, like, the rest of, like, the other ones are okay. Their you know, memories and stuff survived and their programming is still there. So it's like they're not dead. They have a new weird Frankenstein body, but they're not dead. So that happened. But they're just like, you know, laughing and keep going. And they're just like, so that's a real problem when you're in a duel to the death. In the end, they got us to go back to Elbath with them. We had to arm ourselves again. So it's like Dory and Bragi are explaining the fact of like, yeah, no, we're still in a duel. It's just, it's kind of postponed at the moment because our fists weren't enough to take each other down. And we're gonna, we had to go back to Elbath to get new weapons, which we saw they have their new weapons because we see them do, you know, the attack that, you know, destroyed Kid's ship and everything like that previously. So we know that they have their weapons. And then Nami's just like, you went for new weapons, so you're still fighting. And then Dory and Bragi, being the best buddies that they are, even though they're in a duel to the death, they're like, of course, which is just funny. And then Nami's just like turning around like, I'm done, and just drinking. And then Usopp is just like, come on, Nami, didn't you learn a thing on Little Garden? And Luffy's like, yeah, you tell her, Usopp. And we see the rest of them. So we see Robin is here, and we see Chopper and Sanji and Brooke and Zoro and Frankie are all here. And as I mentioned, we saw Jinbei. And Bonnie and Kuma are around here somewhere. I don't know if they're, I don't think they're sitting in this part of it. I think they're like off to the side. And Lilith is here too, because we'll see her in one of the other panels. Where she's, you know, sitting and eating as well, because now she has to eat for herself since she's not really connected to York. And they're just like, yeah, they're all happy. And then Sanji is asking one of the giants, we don't know who it is, and he's just like, this is some strong booze, because they're drinking like booze that's probably from Elbath. And the giant's like, yeah, it's called absinthe, the green fairy. Careful. There's a chance it'll make you hallucinate. And so I did look this up. Absinthe, or the green fairy specifically, is actually a real drink from our world. Which, knowing Oda, it's like, yeah, it's from our world, and it'll probably be something that will probably actually cause hallucinations for the Straw Hats in some shape or form, and we'll see how that applies to what happens at the end of the chapter. So, just a little bit of history for absinthe. So, does absinthe really cause hallucination? So, it's like absinthe is a liquor, is a combination of spirits and herbs, and mainly fennel, anise, and a type of wormwood called Artemisia absinthium. And that's what it's named after, is absinthe. And both Van Gogh and Picasso were big fans of absinthe back in the day, along with other artists who would drink this stuff. And some believe that the absinthe would induce hallucinations. Partly inspired some of their... You know, they think that a lot of the absinthe that they drank inspired some of their works. I don't know where I land on that, but absinthe doesn't really cause hallucinations. They thought that it was a side effect of one of the things inside of it that would make them have this hallucination because of, like, the wormwood, but it doesn't actually cause hallucinations. But that was, like, part of, like, the mythos that grew up around this stuff. And it was part of, like, you know, campaigns to get it banned and stuff like that. And I mean, like, it's still available today in certain places. I don't know exactly if it's, like, fully available in the US, but it's available. But yeah, so it's just like, in our world, it doesn't actually cause hallucinations. I guess depending on what you take it with, it might. But, like, I'm sure in the One Piece world, it's actually going to cause some type of hallucination for certain people. Plus, it's like, it's... it is alcohol, and it's from Elbath, I'm sure. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot. So then we cut to, you know, the next, like, we just get, like, nice 3 panels of, like, the Straw Hats and the Giants just partying and having fun and everything like that. And, you know, they're all just chowing down and eating, and Luffy's running around with, like, a giant bone with mutton on it. And Brooke's playing, and Usopp and Sanji are singing, and they're having fun. And, you know, Brooke's, you know, or Frankie is, you know, doing a super pose, and we see everybody's just smiling and laughing. And it is that moment where it's like in the anime, this will probably get drawn out a little bit more. Which is fine, for, like, them just having a whole bunch of fun with Oimo and Kashi and Dorian Bragi after so long of not seeing them and getting to meet these other giants, which we haven't really, learned any of their names yet. We see, like, I think the giant chef is here, and we see some of the other ones here, running around. And then, like, off to the side, I'm assuming in, like, a slightly quieter part of the ship, we see Kuma and Bonnie. And, you know, Bonnie is sitting in her, you know, regular little kid form. And she's like, we finally got to reach it together. The horizon. And she's, like, sitting on Kuma's lap. And, like, Kuma is still, like, he is kind of smiling. So it's like whatever remains of Kuma are still in there, are still, you know, were drawn to the surface because of Bonnie and everything that happened, and, you know, being drawn back to Bonnie to protect her and everything. And so it's just like, so Kuma has, like, those slight bits of, you know, programming and stuff that is, like, just instinct for him, at this point in time, for, like, protect Bonnie. And so they're just getting to sit and relax, and they're getting to watch, you know, the horizon, the sunrise, however this would be. And they're just, you know, they're just happy which is nice. And it's just like, it's kind of telling because we know that Bonnie is, Bonnie, Big Eater, Glutton, Jewelry Bonnie, is like her epitaph. And we've seen her just like chow down so many times when, she's eating a lot whenever we see her in her introduction and other stuff like that. We see her eating so much. So it's like, she could be off in the party room with the Straw Hats, like chowing down on all of this giant food that I'm sure she would love to eat. And she may end up back there at some point in time. She probably does. But right now, her priority is like, I'm just going to sit here and rest with my dad after not getting to like physically see him and spend time with him, even if he's not fully here for, that I haven't gotten to see him and stuff like that for the last, 2-3 so years or so, between the 2-year time skip and between when he headed off on his, when he couldn't see her anymore because she was being held at, Sorbet Kingdom by Alpha and everything. So we're seeing that. And, so it's like Bonnie's priority is like, I don't have the priority of food right now. My priority is I have my daddy back and I just want to sit and be with him, which is so sweet. So, so, so sweet. And I love it. Giving them that moment. Again, it's like, it's Oda's inner father of daughters coming out there, which is adorable, or inner father of any children coming out there. And then we're going to cut to something that we have been wondering about the consequences for a very long time. And we cut to, so we get the narrator, and it's just like, an incident occurred just over a month ago here at Gartel Island in the New World. The pirate, Bartolomeo the Cannibal, which is, I don't know where the cannibal part came from for Bartolomeo, but whatever, entered Emperor Red-Haired Shanks' territory and burned the city's flag, a blatant affront to the Emperor. So yeah, this is calling back to the One Piece cover story. We were seeing the stuff for the self-proclaimed Straw Hat Grand Fleet. And, in that story, Bartolomeo's section is that they end up at this island. Now we finally get a name for the island. And he shows up and he tries to sell them Luffy merchandise. And the mayor of the island is like, we're part of Shanks' territory. And they're like, oh. And then Bartolomeo just burns the flag because he's an idiot. Which he admits in this chapter. And he's like, okay. And he just burns it and then he forces him to buy the Luffy merchandise. Because he's Bartolomeo. And they reference this in the anime too. They do a little bit of that shown in the anime as well, where they show some bits of the different Grand Fleet for the Edio Pirates and Cavendish and his group and stuff like that. To introduce some of that stuff. So hopefully, it's I really want Hyrule and the new Giant Warrior Pirates to be on Elbas so that Luffy and the others can see them. So we cut to what is probably the town square, and we see that Bartolomeo has been captured, and he's tied up and is being forced to kneel in front of Shanks and the rest of the red-haired pirates, and we see the rest of Barto's crew off to the side behind him, Gambia and the others. And Shanks is staring down at Bartolomeo, and he's like, many crews and islands rely on my flag. If I just let this slide, people will lose faith in it, and my friends and allies would become targets. And it's, it's he's laying down the law, which is we've seen him do this a little bit. We saw him kind of do this at Marineford, when he was, standing up to Sengoku and Akainu and stuff like that. And, we saw this in film Red, with stuff that happened there, with him standing up to the Marines there to protect Uta and Luffy and everything. And in, when he was just outside of Wano, so it's just we've seen Shanks lay down the law, but this is now directed at someone that is associated with Luffy. And he's staring down at Bartolomeo, who has definitely been beaten up in the process of this. In the process of all of this, he's been beaten up. And Barto is just you're absolutely right. And he's he bows, full bow with his head pushed to the ground. And he's please forgive us. We weren't thinking. It was a foolish mistake. Which it was. And that's part of this thing, is that, like, Bartolomeo has to learn that there are consequences for his actions, and that he is not the one that necessarily has to take responsibility for these actions, because he is doing this in the name of Straw Hat Luffy. Therefore, Luffy is the one who is going to bear the responsibility for this, the brunt of the punishment for this. And that's what, if you've read the chapter, then you know that this is what Shanks is trying to teach Barto, and still make an example out of him. And, so Bartolomeo is, like, crying, and he's bleeding, and he's just like, yes, it was foolish. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And we get over to the side where we see, some of the townsfolk and everything like that. And Shanks is just kind of, like, menacingly still looking at Barto. And then Hongo comes over, and Hongo is the one who's the doctor of the crew. And he kneels down, and he has, like, this little jar of poison, with the skull and crossbones on it and everything. And he's, like, holding it out to Bartolomeo, and he's like, this is a deadly poison. See that Straw Hat Luffy takes this within a month. And Barto's like, what? Huh? And Hongo continues, it causes intense pain, blood erupts from the victim till they finally die. We can overlook this if your boss takes responsibility. And Gambi and the others are like, there's no way we could do that to Luffy, senpai. And Barto, actually having a backbone, I mean, not that he didn't demonstrate having a backbone during Dressrosa and stuff, but now it's like, he's more understanding that there is more, consequences for his own actions. And he lunges over, grabs the bottle, and, with his mouth, and then starts drinking out of it. Pouring it down his own throat. Gulping it down, and they're like, boss, no! You're like, boss, stop, you're gonna die. It'll kill you and make your blood spurt out. And Barto, drinks it all down and then probably, spits the bottle out. And he's like, that's fine by me. And we see, Shanks and Beckman are watching as Barto does this. And Barto's like, Luffy's, and, Bartolomeo, it's he's crying and there's tears, flowing down his face. And he's beaten and bloody and bruised and everything. And he's like, Luffy senpai never asked us to share that sake or take up his flag. I ain't gonna get him involved in my mess. His time is too precious to waste on someone like me. I'm good being just another scrub who got killed trying to show up an emperor. Oh man, I wish I could see Luffy senpai become Pirate King. Damn it all, I threw that chance away like an idiot. It's up to you guys now. And they're like, boss! And they're expecting him to start dying very soon. Which, I mean, I guess there is the question of, I don't know how much connection Bartolomeo knows Luffy has with Shanks. Otherwise, he may not have done this in the first place. He may not have gone after one of Shanks' islands in the first place. But, yeah. There's that. But, Shanks is watching Bartolomeo as he's, having this speech, and then Barto is just, poised and ready, and he's just, thinking in his head, see you around, guys, as he's given himself up, he understands that he is about to die, and then he burps, and he's question mark, what the F just happened? And then we cut to the going Luffy senpai is speeding away from this island at full speed, trying to get away from it just at full speed. And he's like, wow, they just let us be. Let's get as far away as possible. And they're just going as fast as they can. And Gambia is just looks like that poison was a fake. It wouldn't have hurt Luffy senpai at all. And then Barto is just I thought the emperors were meant to be ruthless. He was softer than I expected. Which, one of the translations that I saw for this said, naive, and I'm like, I didn't think that would be, Barto just had, his life on the line, and he knows Shanks could have very easily just, killed him anyway. if he didn't do this. He could have just killed Bardo anyway and killed his whole crew, like what he just did with Kid. Wipe him off the map, which, to be fair, is what's about to happen in a moment. But I think Bardo has had like a revelation here, or at least I hope he does, because like it is kind of this moment where it's just like he realizes that he's not on his own anymore. His actions are not his own actions. He has taken up this mantle as like a representative of the Straw Hat Pirates and as a representative of Luffy, and has ended up, taking that name and besmirching it and dragging it through the mud and going to attack this random town who did nothing to him and did nothing to Luffy, and is under the protection of another emperor. Now, it would be one thing if this was a town, like if they'd shown up at Jaya or something like that, where like, and it was all the same people who had still laughed at Luffy and everything like that when everything happened, or some of these other places that have, that were like an enemy of Luffy. Like if he showed up at the evil Black Drum Kingdom, then that would have been fine. But that's not the case. He landed on an island that is like neutral to Luffy, has never interacted with Luffy, and Bardo does something stupid. And now he's realized the fact that, I guess my actions aren't really my own anymore. I didn't take that into account. And now there's poison in front of me, and they're going to try to make me poison Luffy senpai. Okay, screw that. And he just, like, drinks it. Which is, like, I applaud Bardo for that, and Shanks is going to, like, applaud him for it in a minute before his ship gets blown up. But, like, so they're trying to get out of there as fast as possible, which go faster. And we cut back to probably just on the Red Force. And, Beckman is, like, looking at Shanks and was like, what are you smirking at? And Shanks is smiling. He's just like, isn't it hard not to smile? He's so dedicated to Luffy. And then Yasop shows up and he's like, yeah, hey boss, mind stepping out of the way? We still gotta teach him a lesson. And Yasop is just like holding out his gun and pointing it at the going Luffy senpai. And just holds it out. Shanks steps aside and Yasop fires at it and just blows up the ship. Burning figurehead that's Luffy's face just falling into the water. And the narrator comes on and is like, on this day, by Gartel Island, the Barto Club pirate ship was sunk. It is unknown if there are any survivors. So, note on this. Bardo is the only member of the crew that we are aware of that has a devil fruit. And as far as we're aware, all the rest of the crew don't. So, I would hope a lot of them at least know how to swim. So that way they would be able to hopefully, save Barto so he doesn't drown. Because we like him. I mean, admittedly, it's like a lot of people like Kid too, but it's like, again, it's like they've both effed around and found out. And Bardo at least took responsibility for his actions, where Kid didn't, in this regard, for what just happened. And, and I don't know if, like, Shanks' intention is to actually kill them, but he's also, like, he is an emperor, and he kind of has to, like, make an example out of these people who have, defied him and gone against him and, against his flag and everything like that, or it makes him look weak. In this regard. But, and it's like, we don't know the answer to this. It doesn't say they were wiped out. It just says the crew, the fate is unknown. Whether or not they survived. Which they could have. Some of them could have. Some of them might have survived but been injured. But Bardo probably had to be dragged out of the water. But the only island right here that they're around right now is this one right here, who they kind of just attacked, and then Shanks is still there, so it's just like, well, we can't really go back to that island, so I don't know what's going to happen. Although, okay, I will point this out in regards to Barto. So we know that he has his barrier devil fruit, where he can, make the barriers in different shapes. I don't know if we've seen how that would stand up to water itself, but I would assume that, like, even seawater may not be able to get past it, because, like, I would say it's similar to like Perospero's candy slugs that he made and put into the water for like Big Mom to ride on when they were, running around Totland. So I would assume that like his berry or devil fruit would still work even if, as long as he keeps his fingers crossed. If anything, he would, I mean, if he had enough, future sight hockey, he would just been able to like, explosion, cross fingers, protect crew, and the ship blew up. Okay, I can hold this for a while, but we need to get to another island, so we got to figure out how to make this work, type of a thing. Before he, adjusts his barrier or something like that. So we'll see what happens. From there, we're going to cut to Hachinosu Island, Pirate Island, Beehive Island, whatever you want to call it, Full Lead Island. And we see some of the results of Garp and Kobe's handiwork in the fact that the giant skull mountain thing on the island that is, controlled by Avala Pizarro with his, island fruit. I was trying to remember the Japanese name, just island devil fruit. And it's like bandaged up and like, which is just funny because it's like, it's a rock. So it's just funny in that regard. And I think a lot of people expected it to look like it's been like bandaged up, and it has. So that's just funny. And we hear, Blackbeard has now returned to Hachinosu Island, and we're going to find out Garp's fate, which he's not dead, which Garp's not dead, is fine. I didn't want him to be dead yet anyway. But we have, Blackbeard is yelling at Avala Pizarro, and he's just like, how the hell did you let this happen, Pizarro? I haven't even been gone that long. And Pizarro's like, it wasn't that simple, yeah. And I love this scene because, I love this picture. I don't like Blackbeard that much, and I don't really like Avala Pizarro, but I like this picture a lot because it's like the giant like rock face setup of like Pizarro that like comes out of the wall to like talk to people when they're inside of the skull. For like where like their headquarters are, or like at least where Blackbeard's like headquarters is, and he comes out and like, so it's Avala Pizarro's giant stone face, and then Blackbeard is like pulling on his mustache and has a gun out to like threaten him, and like, he's rock, you can't really threaten him right now, but okay. And he's just like angry and yelling at Avala Pizarro, and Avala Pizarro is just like freaking out, which is just so funny, and I love this drawing. Again, I don't care for either of these characters. I like Avala Pizarro's devil fruit. I'm like, yeah, I'm an island now, but like, I don't really care for either of them as people because they're both horrible. But Blackbeard is like, didn't you hear? The world is on the brink. The Poneglyphs ain't an obscure secret anymore. We emperors are gonna have to tear each other to pieces over them. You think the government and navy are just gonna stand by? We ain't gonna win unless we're ready. Kobe was our ace in the hole, and you're telling me he got away? So this is the reference to the fact that, stuff that, like they heard in Vegapunk's message, like Vegapunk, I think, mentioned the Poneglyphs and stuff like that. I think so. But, yeah, he did. He mentioned that he was studying the Poneglyphs and got information from some of the ones that he had, or that he read. And mentioned some of that in his message. So, and then the Kobe thing is that, and this was just gone over in like one of the episodes where it's like Blackbeard had been intending to keep Kobe hostage and then use him as a bargaining chip to gain official world government recognized status as a country for Hachinosu. And well, that's not going to happen now, or at the very least, that's not going to happen with Kobe as the the prize. It might work with Garp. But, it's not going to work with Kobe anymore because Kobe managed to escape, as we saw. Kobe and the rest of the Sword members, along with, and we're going to find out that Moria and Perona managed to escape as well. But that they all managed to escape along with a bunch of the slaves that, Blackbeard and such had captured. They all managed to escape and get away with, the sword ship. But what happens is, so now, Avala Pizarro is just like, I'm sorry, teach. because, he always talks like a cat because he's based off of a cat. And he's just like, just hear me out. It ain't like I just let him scurry away. And then we cut out to the outside part of the island where we see San Juan Wolf is trying to pick up the buildings and put them back where they were after everything that was done with messing up the island between Kujaku's whip devil fruit, where she was like whipping the buildings to make them move in that regard, but also when just Garp and Kobe, between their galaxy impact and honesty impact, caused a lot of damage to the island. And we see that with like Pizarro's face and a bunch of the buildings. And San Juan Wolf, who is so big and so clumsy, is like picking up the buildings to try to put them back. And he's like, where does this shop go? And it's just like, to the left. And then like, because he's moving and he's not paying attention, his butt is whacking one of the other buildings and knocking it over. And they're just like, watch your ass. And so it's just like, that's going on, which is just funny. And then we also hear Blackbeard chatter is like, and you let Moria escape too, which confirms that Moria did manage to escape. So Perona was able, so Kobe probably did help her get Moria out of his cell wherever he was down in the dungeons of the island, and her and Moria managed to escape. So that at least means Moria's alive. Although we kind of figured that anyway with Perona wanting to rescue him, and nobody else on the crew thus far having Moria's devil fruit. Although I will point this out when it comes to Moria's devil fruit, is that like, to really maximize what you can do with the devil fruit, you kind of have to do the zombie setup, because manipulating your own shadow is fine, and that is a very useful thing to be able to do, as we see him when he's fighting against Luffy and manipulating Orz's shadow and everything like that. But the other part of that is that if it's like you can only do so much in that regard for your own shadow and everything like that. So it's just like him like trying to be like a moral person and a good person and morally good person, and trying to use this devil fruit. The way that you maximize the ability is like the zombie setup. But it's like that would be a really hard thing to do, because it's not like you're going to have people willingly give you their shadows to then put into a zombie to make it come to life. So yeah, there's that. And then we see a bunch of the other pirates on the crew that are like just like the much lower ranked pirates that just live on Hachinosu and stuff like that, and like work for Blackbeard, and they're just like, Commodore! It's like, we're ready for anything. Everybody knows you're the man who claimed the One Piece, Blackbeard. The one who's gonna take over the world. And we just see they're all just like amped up. And I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the scene because like we know that Krieg and Pearl and Geen are on the island, and I don't think we see them in this crowd shot. Because I'm looking and I'm like, I don't think we see them. We see a parrot. There's a parrot here. And such, and we see a bunch of the other random pirates, but I don't think we see any of the Krieg pirates. So I wanted to double check that to see if we saw any of them here, and I don't think we see any of them in this section. In this group. So it's just like they're just all raring to go and fired up and ready to go after the One Piece. So then we get another 2-page spread. We had one earlier for like the big giant party, but now we're getting another 2-page spread where we're cutting back into Blackbeard's party office, whatever you want to call it, the room with all the chains and the palm trees. And they're all there and they're talking. And a bunch of all the crew that's not here, everyone here is except for Katarina and Lafitte and Van Auger. Everybody else looks like they're here. In some shape or form. Even San Juan Wolf is like pushing his head in off to the side through like the window or whatever. And so like they're all just like sitting there talking. And Blackbeard is just like, Zehaha! At least morale is on the rise. That's something we gotta take advantage of. Now, let me hear it, Kuzan. Kobe got away, but it's like setting him up like, drum roll, please. And Kuzan is just like, well, we caught Garp. And his Blackbeard is just like, Zehaha, now that's what I call a consolation prize. So there's that. and Avala Pizarro is still clearly trying to like get himself back in, Blackbeard's good graces, and he's like, "You keep finding ways to trade up to Captain, yeah?" And so it's like he's there, and then we see Kuzan is just like, "To be honest, I was going for the kill, but he survived in regards to dealing with Garp," which is fair. And we see this cut to where we see like Garp in this, just covered in chains, and again he's bloody and beaten, but he's like bandaged up, and he's definitely in some deep, dark, dank cell being covered in like chains that are probably sea prism stone. Even if Garp is not a devil fruit user, I would still advise using like sea prism stone on him if you can, because it's just harder for him to break, devil fruit or not. And and Blackbeard is just like, "Don't be too hard on yourself, Kuzan. There ain't many who could take him down, And Kuzan's like, "Well, it was a team effort," I guess. And we see Jesus Burgess, and he's just like, "Looks like the winds of fortune are way favoring us. Yeehaw!" Forever he laughs. I don't remember. And Blackbeard is just like, "We also snagged this three-eyed girly here," and he pulls Pudding in, and he's got her under his arm. And he's just like, "Ha ha ha ha," and he's just like, "Get Lafitte on the line." And Pudding is not happy to be in this situation. She does not want to be here. She has been taken from her home, her island, her siblings. She's been kidnapped. She is not happy. She is very much not comfortable in this type of a situation with the creepy, stinky, gross old man touching her, who is one of the reasons she is captured. And, all of that. Plus, she has no idea if her mother is still alive, even if she doesn't have the best relationship with her mother. And she has no idea what else is going on. So, we cut to Navy Umit Shipping HQ. So, Deep Sea Umit, or whatever it is called, is the shipping underworld emperor who we met at the Big Mom's Tea Party, and where we met Stussy and Morgans and drug Peklo and some of the other ones. Umid is the one who tends to handle a bunch of the shipping all over the world, and we see that his shipping headquarters seems to keep getting attacked because it's the Revolutionary Army keeps showing up, and they are causing so much damage and so many problems here to prevent the supplies from getting to Marie Joie and even getting to the Marines in some cases. So there's that's going on here, which just got referenced in in the more recent episode of the anime and such. So that's it's kind of building on that, reminding us that is going on. And of course that got mentioned in the last chapter with the Celestial Dragons complaining about not having food, or not having as much food as they would want whenever they demand it. As the case is. I ordered beef, not fish, type of thing. So they call up Lafitte, and Lafitte is just like sitting on this tower or whatever, watching as everything's going on here. And he's just like, "Yes, Commodore Teach." And it's just like, "What are those revolutionaries up to?" And Lafitte's like, "Seems like their siege is proving effective, and the Red Port's gondolas keep breaking down whenever they try to load them with food." So the gondolas are what we saw at the Red Port, that like we saw all the royalty and such getting on them and being taken up to the top, up the red line up to Marie Joie from the Red Port. So those keep breaking down because like obviously it's like any food that does manage to get through this blockade would then end up getting to the Red Port, and then the Red Port has to then send the food up to Marie Joie. And if the gondolas keep breaking, because they have to use the gondolas to like take the food up, then the food's not getting up there, and the food's just getting probably like destroyed or wasted in the process. Which is of course just adding to what's going on, because part of this is they have a chokehold on these supplies that are supposed to get up to Marie Joie. And if there is this chokehold on the supplies, then of course the Celestial Dragons are getting angrier. And of course that means that, and of course like they saved a lot of the slaves that were there. They freed a bunch of the slaves that were there when the Revolutionary Army was running around. And we saw that in like the last episode. We saw them freeing a bunch of the slaves. So that's good. there's still slaves there, obviously. Unfortunately, because they couldn't get all of them, just like even 15 whatever years ago, Fisher Tiger couldn't free all of them, but he freed as many of them as he could. And in this case, it's they have this chokehold where it's like even if food is getting through, the gondolas keep breaking, and of course they're not going to be feeding as many of the people in the city that are on the red ports. So that's happening. So it's like they're probably not getting as much food as they're supposed to. So it's like that's not going to make them happy. And so he's just like, yeah, the supply shipments from foreign nations have been halted too. And even when the Navy manages to secure food, they can't stop the sabotage gondolas from crashing. So it's just like, that hasn't been fixed. Those have not been fixed. So that's good. And Luffy's just sitting on the thrift as he's like watching everything, and probably has just been listening in on communications and everything like that coming in and out. And he's just like, the celestial dragons may really start to starve at this rate. It's all quite unprecedented, really, not to mention engaging. So he's like very much enjoying watching this happen, which, I mean, bad guy or not, I'm like, yeah, I'd enjoy watching the celestial dragons suffer in this regard. So I have to at least agree with him that this is entertaining. And Blackbeard is just like, say ha ha, this ain't the time to sit back and watch. Get ready. And he's like, understood. So it's just like, they're planning something. Blackbeard has something up his purple polka dotted sleeves at this point in time for what he's going to be doing. So we'll see what happens there. So we get back to Pirate Island, back to Hachinosu. Not that we ever fully left it since, Blackbeard was part of this conversation. We get back to Hachinosu where we see that the ship that was carrying Devon and Augur and has Caribou on it has arrived at Hachinosu. And they're like, Pizarro, we've arrived. And he's like, hey, it's Devon, and the island's still talking. I love the talking island. I'm sorry. I love the talking island. That is so funny. I love that. And what happens is Devon is just like, pick us up. And this is just great. Pizarro's arm just like comes out of the water because it's the giant arm of the island. And he goes over and picks up the ship. And he's just like, talking to you guys is such a pain. Yeah. I'm injured, right? He picks them up, being very careful with this, and then, like, sets them down, like, picks them up and takes them right over to where, like, they're probably having the meeting with Teach. And Caribou is just freaking out at the moment, which is just hilarious. And he's just like, oh, hell no, it's a monster. Don't take me, Big Bro Princess, save me. And I'm like, you are pathetic. And, like, I'm pretty sure that's what Devon and Van Augur are thinking at the moment anyway, is that this guy is pathetic. Why did we bring him here? As this is happening, and they're just like, quit jabbering. And it's just like, you brought that guy, didn't you? And Van Augur's just like, uh-huh. Like, he's just fed up. He just wants to go to bed. Van Augur is just tired. He just wants to go to bed. He has had enough. He's been zipping all over the world these past couple of days and everything like that. He just wants to go to bed, which is fair. And now we cut back to, the Great Eric, sans the Thousand Sunny, plus 2 giant fish. So, we get the narrator going, it's been 2 days since the giant warrior pirates set sail from Egghead. However, even with the sailing speed of the Great Eric, so this is confirmed that this is the same ship that the giant warrior pirates had 100 years ago, when we saw the flashback with Dorian Broggy. So there's that. So that's nice. Which we kind of figured it was the same ship, but we just, we get confirmation now. And it's just like, they have yet to arrive at Elbath. What could have caused this? And, like, they're all freaking out. We see Dorian and Broggy are freaking out, and Brooke is freaking out, and it's just like, what's going on? Did we all pass out drunk? Where's the Sunny gone? I can't see it. So it's just like, the Sunny is not there. The Sunny is gone. And all of the giants are just like freaking out because, like, where the F did the Sunny go? And we know that Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, and Chopper were all on the Thousand Sunny, or at the very least, they have vanished too, because Robin, Frankie, Jinbei, and Brooke are the only Straw Hats that we see here. All the rest of them are gone. And so it's like all the giants are like looking at it, and we see Lilith is here, and we see Bonnie is here, and there's this cute shot because there's this cute thing in the background because like Jinbei is like kind of looking to try to figure out what's going on, and like Bonnie is just kind of like holding on to Jinbei's, you know, his clothes, just like kind of holding on to him because like she's kind of worried, and like he's so big compared to her, but like, you know, he's you know, Jinbei is, you know, bigger than a normal human anyway. He's a fishman, so he's bigger than a normal one, than most humans anyway. But, like, she's just, like, holding onto his clothes like she's worried, too, which is funny and cute and adorable. And one of the giants is like, we gotta find them! We can't head to Elbath like this! And Robin's like, maybe they were swallowed by a fish. It's like Robin's disturbed sense of humor coming into play. And then Frankie is like, quit it! The fish here are so massive that just might be true. And then he's just like, Luffy, where did you go? So they're all just panicking because they have no idea where half their crew, well, over half the crew, where 60% of their crew went, along with their ship. So they're just like, what the F is going on? How did we all get this drunk? And then we cut to the last page of the chapter, and we have Nami, hey, wake up! And we see Nami is kind of like slowly waking up, and she's looking around, and she's like, oh my god, I must have drank too much, which is saying something because like we've seen Nami be in multiple drinking contests and just like outlast, I think, Zoro as well in how much she can drink before passing out or before even getting drunk, because she can really hold her liquor, which is saying something in comparison to, you know, Zoro. But she like wakes up and her clothes have been changed. She seems to be alone, and she seems to be put into some of like giant style clothing that kind of looks like, you know, the Viking style stuff. So it's a callback to kind of like her prototype design that then got reused for like Gerd for the New Giant Warrior Pirates for Hyrudine's crew. So it's like kind of a callback to that because it's like fur clothes and stuff like that. And she also has a sword on her back, which I like because A, her prototype design had a giant F-off axe, which I love. B, there was a what-if picture that Oda drew that was, what if Nami used three-sword style? And it's, you know, Nami using the three-sword style, the Centauryu that, like, you know, that Zoro uses, and she has, you know, the three swords and everything like that. And, you know, like, he drew that for, like, one of the One Piece magazines. As part of like his various what if series for the different characters, for some of the different characters. So that's just fun there. So we see that, but we see Nami waking up, and she's looking around, and she's like, huh? And she's like trying to figure out where the F she is. And it looks like she is actually inside of what looks like a Lego castle, because the floor, so it's like, if we didn't see the floor, all of the walls would just look like maybe she's in like a castle, but the floor has like all the little round circular things that are on the top of the Lego. So it looks like she's in like this giant Lego castle room, and there's like a fake little castle chandelier up on top, and like a barrel next to her, and, you know, like a little flower pot and stuff. And she's just like, huh? Looking around like trying to figure out where the F she is. So there's that. So it's like, oh my god, where the F is she? And where the F are the others? And I went blurry again, sorry. So it's like, where the F is she and where the F are the others? And it's like, I don't know. She's somehow trapped here, and we don't know how she ended up here. They mentioned that the absence can cause hallucinations, so that's a possibility that is causing this for why she's here. That doesn't explain why she would have vanished from the rest of the crew, in this regard, and where the other five of them are that have vanished, and why they're in a giant Lego castle. I guess a giant Lego castle would be like a normal size castle for us if it's from a giant. So there's that. So there's a possibility there. Maybe Loki showed up and he's using his tricks and he stole her, and it's a reference to that. I don't know. Or maybe someone else showed up and like whisked away certain members of the Straw Hats. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. There was something that I was going to mention before, but I kind of skipped over it when I was doing the poison stuff with Bartolomeo, because my Disney brain, because I got in depth in talking about that. But the thing that I wanted to point out is that, like, the thing that popped into my brain when I was reading through, like, they give Bartolomeo a poison to kill Luffy, and my brain went to the poison for Luffy, the poison chosen specifically to kill Luffy, Luffy's poison, that poison, and my brain jumped to the Emperor's New Groove. So yeah, there's that. That's where that popped into my brain, because my brain is Disney centric, all things Disney in that regard. So there is no break next week, so hopefully we will be maybe finding out what's going on, or maybe we'll cut away from this for a little while, or we'll cut back to this and start here for where Nami is, and it's like the other 5 are here, and the rest of them have to find them, or something else happens, because either we're going to set up the bad guy for Elbath really early on, and they capture them, and the others have to save them. I'm just like, but they left Egghead together. Why can't they just stay together? I'm sick and tired of them getting, like, separated. Dressrosa, Whole Cake, Zoe, all of it separated. Saba Odi, separated. There's a reason for that. But, so, that's what we have here. I thank you for watching. I'm going to try to get this up as soon as I can, but she has to go to the groomer later, so I'll be taking her to the groomer and then probably coming back and finishing my editing. So, that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!